In the thick, humid streets of Lagos, there was an old man named Baba Abaji. People said he came from the countryside, a place where magic was rumored to flow through the rivers and hide in the trees. But in Lagos, Baba Abaji was nothing but a shadow. He walked slowly, hunched over, his back bending under the weight of years unknown to most. He wore an Agbada, a worn-out traditional robe with the color of rust, tattered and faded by time and the elements. The streets of Lagos buzzed with life, chaotic and wild. Vendors shouted about their wares, their voices melding into a vibrant symphony of commerce. Cars honked, the scent of freshly fried akara lingered in the air, and the clamor of children running down alleyways filled the atmosphere. Yet amid all this life, Baba Abaji was invisible. People saw only an old man with sad eyes, a silent figure who stretched out a wrinkled hand in quiet appeal. "Help an old man," he whispered to passers-by. His voice was soft, almost too faint to hear, as if he didn't want anyone to notice him. And that was precisely the point. For Baba Abaji was not an ordinary beggar. Baba Abaji had a secret, a dark, chilling secret. Beneath the guise of poverty and helplessness, he harbored a power that fed off people's goodwill and kindness. Every coin given to him was not just a gesture of charity. It was a sliver of that person's fate, a tiny fragment of their destiny. With each coin, each note that dropped into his hand, Baba Abaji grew stronger, younger, and wealthier in ways unseen to ordinary eyes. When he felt the clink of coins in his hand, he would whisper incantations under his breath, words only he could understand. Each word wrapped around the coins, binding them with a spell as old as time itself. He had no need for the actual money, no need for food or shelter like other beggars. What he sought was the essence of the people's lives, hidden within those small acts of kindness. One day, a young woman stopped in front of him. She had bright eyes and a wide smile that Baba Abaji noticed even from under his hood. She reached into her purse, pulled out a handful of naira notes, and pressed them into his hand. "God bless you, Baba," she said, her voice warm and kind. As she walked away, Baba Abaji felt the power surge within him. He closed his eyes, clutching the notes tightly, feeling the flow of energy move through his veins. Somewhere in the crowd, the young woman's luck was changing. She would stumble in her career, her health would weaken, or her relationships would sour, all because of that one act of kindness. And Baba Abaji would grow stronger. He grinned beneath his hood, knowing he was one step closer to his goal. When the day's light faded and the streets of Lagos quieted, Baba Abaji retreated to a hidden corner of the city. In an abandoned building on the edge of the neighborhood, he had set up a secret room, a place known only to him. He called it his ritual chamber. The room was dimly lit by a single, flickering candle, casting eerie shadows across the cracked walls. Strange symbols were scrawled on the floor, symbols from an ancient language that no one dared to speak. Bones and trinkets lined the edges of the room, each one representing a life he had taken, a destiny he had stolen. It was here, in this dark chamber, that Baba Abaji performed his rituals, feeding on the fragments of destiny he had collected. He sat in the center of the room, a small mat beneath him. He placed the coins and notes from the days begging in a circle around him, whispering his incantations. The air grew thick with an invisible force, pulsing and thrumming like a heartbeat. With each word, he felt himself grow younger. His back straightened, his hands became steadier, and his eyesight grew sharper. Baba Abaji was returning to his former self, the man he had been many years ago, before he had been cast out of his village. Back then, he had been a powerful herbalist, known for his knowledge of ancient magic. But his greed had driven him to darker practices, rituals that no one else dared to perform. When the elders discovered his deeds, they banished him, stripping him of his title and honor. But he had found a way to survive. He had learned the secrets of destiny stealing and crafted his life as a beggar, moving from town to town, city to city, gathering power from the unsuspecting. Tonight was special. Tonight, he would perform the final part of his ritual, one that would allow him to rise not just as a man, but as a figure of unimaginable influence. As he chanted, he saw the faces of those whose lives he had touched in the faint glow of the candlelight. Young men who had once been prosperous, mothers who had lost their children, businessmen whose fortunes had collapsed. Each face was a testament to his power, and each one made him stronger. As the candle burned low, Baba Abaji completed the ritual, feeling a new strength coursing through his veins. He stood up, taller and more vibrant than he had been in years. A faint smile played on his lips as he looked at his reflection in a broken mirror propped against the wall. The beggar was gone. In his place stood a man reborn, a man ready to take on the world. The next morning, Lagos woke up to a new day. But for some, life was not as it had been. A young man named Tunde, a tech entrepreneur who had recently launched a successful startup, felt his world crumbling. Out of nowhere, his clients began canceling contracts, his investors pulled out, and his once promising company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Confused and desperate, Tunde couldn't understand what had gone wrong. Meanwhile, a market woman named Mama Nkechi, who sold vegetables by the roadside, watched her business decline. She had always been popular, her stall always busy, but lately, her vegetables had started rotting overnight, and her customers avoided her stall. Her income dwindled, and she found herself struggling to feed her children. And then there was Aminat, a young university student with dreams of becoming a lawyer. She had been one of the top students in her class, but suddenly, she couldn't focus, couldn't retain information, and her grades began to slip. Her professors, once impressed by her diligence, now looked at her with disappointment. Each of these people had crossed paths with Baba Abeji. They had each given him money, a simple act of kindness. They had each unknowingly sacrificed a part of their fate. Days turned into weeks, and Baba Abeji's victims began to feel the weight of their misfortune. They grew weaker, their dreams slipping further out of reach, while Baba Abeji thrived. He opened a small shop in the city, a front for his wealth, where he sold herbal concoctions and remedies, offering false hope to those who came seeking answers. But Lagos was a city that held secrets of its own, a city that knew how to fight back against those who sought to corrupt its spirit. And so, amid the victims' suffering, a spark of resistance began to grow. A journalist named Elle, known for his investigations into the strange and the supernatural, heard rumors about a mysterious beggar whose presence seemed to bring misfortune. Drawn by his curiosity, Elle began to dig into the stories, seeking out those who had crossed paths with Baba Abeji, piecing together the clues that others had missed. The deeper he dug, the more he realized there was something darker at play, a force that no one could see, but everyone could feel. Elle was not a man to ignore a good story, and Lagos was a city that fed his curiosity like no other. As a journalist, he had seen many strange and unexplainable things, but the rumors about a beggar stealing people's destinies felt different. It was an unusual case, one that teetered on the edge of the supernatural and the absurd, but Elle couldn't shake the feeling that there was something true hidden beneath the whispers. His investigation began in the quiet alleys and bustling markets where people gathered to exchange gossip. The first clue came from a market woman who had noticed a pattern among the vendors. "Business was always good here, oh," she said, gesturing to the crowded stalls around them. "But lately some people, their luck just vanished. Mom and Kechi, her vegetables are spoiling. And that young man, Tunde, I heard his business fell apart." Elle scribbled in his notebook, noting the names and events. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Did you see anything unusual? Someone who might be connected to them?" The woman hesitated, her eyes darting around nervously before she leaned in. "There is one man, Baba Abeji. They say he's a beggar, but his eyes, they're not like an old man's eyes. People say he is just looking for help, but I don't know. I see him, and I feel fear." As Elle gathered more information, a pattern began to emerge. Baba Abeji wasn't just any beggar. He was a figure who seemed to carry a dark cloud wherever he went. Anyone who crossed his path, anyone who gave him money, eventually found themselves tangled in misfortune. And though Lagos was a city of chance and risk, this was no mere coincidence. Elle followed Baba Abeji's trail through the city, observing him from a distance, taking notes on his daily routines. He watched as people dropped coins into the old man's hands, saw the faint smile that touched his lips each time. Elle felt a chill watching him, a sense that he was witnessing something forbidden, something that defied natural order. But there was something else that gnawed at Elle's mind, a sense of connection, as if he had seen Baba Abeji before. The beggar's face was oddly familiar, yet he couldn't place it. The mystery deepened, and Elle felt himself pulled in, unable to resist the lure of the unknown. As Elle's investigation continued, Baba Abeji was thriving in ways he had never before. His new business, a small herbal shop, attracted crowds eager for solutions to their daily struggles. He sold everything from charms for good luck to potions to ward off illness. His clients were unsuspecting, trusting in his wisdom and eager to buy into the promises he made. But for those who looked carefully, Baba Abeji's transformation was obvious. The frail, stooped figure had been replaced by a vibrant man, his posture now upright, his face smoother and his eyes sharper. He had begun dressing in finer clothes, wearing agbatas in bright colors, with patterns that shimmered in the light. He looked like a man of power, someone who had risen from the ashes of poverty to become something else entirely. One evening, Baba Abeji locked up his shop and made his way to his ritual chamber, now filled with more relics from his victims. Worn shoes, trinkets, personal items he had collected over the months. Each object was a symbol of a life diminished, a life he had taken for himself. As he stood in the center of the room, he spoke an incantation in a language lost to most. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows lengthened, and the air thickened with a presence that both welcomed and feared him. He could feel the essence of his victims, their destinies swirling around him like an invisible aura, and he reveled in the sensation. Tonight, he murmured to himself, I am closer to my destiny than ever before. But just as he began the ritual, a sudden image flashed through his mind, a face from his past. It was Ao's face, though he did not know the journalist by name. He remembered Ao as a young boy from his village, a curious child who had always asked too many questions. A chill ran down Baba Abeji's spine. Could Ao still remember him? Could he possibly know about the old secrets, the rituals, the exile that had driven him to Lagos? Baba Abeji shook his head, dismissing the thought. Ao was a child back then, and the years had erased the faces and memories of his past. Still, an unsettling feeling lingered. Baba Abeji's success had come at the cost of lives, and deep down, he knew that destiny was a dangerous force to tamper with. He only hoped that his past would remain buried, far from the prying eyes of those who sought to uncover it. Ao's search led him to Baba Abeji's shop, his footsteps slow and steady as he approached the small, inconspicuous building. He felt the weight of his investigation, the culmination of his search pressing on his shoulders. The shop smelled of herbs and incense, a thick, earthy aroma that masked something darker. Inside, he found Baba Abeji, standing behind a counter lined with bottles and charms. The beggar looked up, his eyes meeting Ao's, and for a moment, the two men regarded each other in silence. Ao felt a surge of recognition, a flash of childhood memories from his village, a place he hadn't thought of in years. He remembered the stories, the warnings about a man who had been cast out for using forbidden magic. You, Ao said, his voice filled with quiet accusation. I know who you are. Baba Abeji's expression darkened, his gaze hardening. And what is it you think you know, young man? Ao stepped forward, his jaw set with determination. I know you're not just a beggar. You're stealing people's lives, their futures, using their kindness against them. You've been feeding off their destinies. Baba Abeji's face broke into a mocking smile. You think you understand power, Ao? You, a mere journalist? He leaned in closer, his voice a harsh whisper. I am not just a beggar. I am more than that. I am what people have made me, feeding on their foolish goodwill, their fleeting kindness. They give their destinies willingly, Ao. I only take what is offered. Ao clenched his fists, anger sparking in his eyes. You're ruining lives. Tunde, Mom and Kechi, Aminat. They trusted you, and you betrayed them. They are weak, Baba Abeji said dismissively. Only the strong survive, Ao. That is the way of the world. Ao's voice trembled, both with fear and defiance. You may think you've won, Baba Abeji, but I won't let this continue. I'll expose you. I'll tell everyone about the things you've done. For a brief moment, Baba Abeji's mask slipped. His eyes narrowed, and his face contorted with anger. You think I fear you, boy, he spat. I have lived 100 lives. I have taken destinies and molded them into my own. You are nothing to me. But then his expression softened, a sinister smile spreading across his lips. Still, you have potential, Ao. A curiosity that could be useful. I can offer you power, wealth beyond your dreams. All you need to do is join me. Think about it, Ao. You could be more than just a journalist. Ao felt the temptation tugging at him, the allure of power and wealth. For a fleeting moment, he imagined what it would be like to have the strength and influence that Baba Abeji possessed. But then he saw the faces of the victims, the people whose lives had been shattered, and he knew he couldn't accept. No, Ao said firmly. I'd rather expose you than become like you. Baba Abeji's eyes flashed with fury. Then you've chosen your fate, he hissed. But don't think you'll escape unscathed. I have the power to end you, to take everything you hold dear. Ao stood his ground, his gaze unwavering. Do your worst, Baba Abeji. I'm not afraid of you. The two men stared at each other, locked in a silent battle of wills. Ao knew he had made an enemy of Baba Abeji, a powerful and dangerous foe who would stop at nothing to protect his secret. But he also knew that he couldn't back down. He would fight, even if it meant risking his own life. As he left the shop, Elle felt a chill run down his spine. He had crossed a line and there would be consequences. But he was ready. Baba Abeji's reign would come to an end, and the city of Lagos would be free of his dark influence. Or so he hoped. The night after Elle confronted Baba Abeji, a strange sensation settled over him. He was exhausted, and yet his mind raced, images of the beggar's piercing eyes flashing in his thoughts. He couldn't shake the feeling of Baba Abeji's presence, as though the man had seeped into his very soul, leaving behind a lingering shadow. Elle lay in bed, staring at the ceiling as he replayed the conversation. The words echoed in his mind. "Then you've chosen your fate." The phrase seemed to carry a weight far heavier than he'd realized in the moment. As his thoughts drifted, he felt a sudden tightness in his chest, his heart pounding as if caught in the grip of an unseen force. In the early hours of the morning, Elle woke to a strange noise, a whispering that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Shadows flickered along the walls, shifting and dancing as if alive. He closed his eyes, trying to shake the sensation, but it only grew stronger. His phone buzzed with a notification, a message from his friend Femi, who had heard about Ayo's investigation. Femi had a connection to an elder, a traditional healer and spiritual guide named Baba Olufemi. Femi insisted that Ayo see Baba Olufemi, warning him that he was facing forces far more dangerous than he could handle alone. Reluctantly, Ayo agreed. He could sense that Baba Abeji's influence was more than just psychological. Something supernatural and sinister was at work, and if he wanted to survive, he would need all the help he could get. The journey to Baba Olufemi's compound took Ayo to the outskirts of Lagos, to a secluded place surrounded by ancient trees and sacred symbols. Ayo had grown up hearing stories of men like Baba Olufemi, wise elders who held the secrets of ancient magic and could tap into the forces of protection and healing. He hoped this elder could help him counter the curse Baba Abeji had placed on him. When he arrived, Ayo was greeted by a group of men who led him to a dimly lit hut. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of herbs, smoke, and the faint sounds of chanting. Baba Olufemi sat in the center of the room, his head wrapped in a cloth, his eyes sharp and observant. He gestured for Ayo to sit, watching him with an intensity that made Ayo feel as though the elder could see into his very soul. "So, you've come to me because of Baba Abeji," Baba Olufemi said, his voice a low, rumbling echo. Ayo nodded. "He's different. He's taking people's destinies, using their lives to fuel his own power. He's already threatened me." The elder's eyes darkened as he listened. He sat silently, absorbing Ayo's words, before he finally spoke. "Baba Abeji is not an ordinary man. He was once a powerful herbalist, but his heart was corrupted by greed and envy. He delved into forbidden rituals, practices that consume the soul. In his exile, he learned the dark arts of destiny theft, an ancient forbidden magic. It allows him to siphon the life and fortune of others, leaving them broken while he grows in strength." Baba Olufemi reached into a pouch at his side, pulling out a small charm made of beads and bones. He held it out to Ayo. "This is an amulet of protection. It will shield you from his immediate attacks, but it cannot fully counter the effects of his curse. To truly break free, you must confront Baba Abeji on the spiritual plane, weaken his power source, and release the souls he has captured." Ayo felt a surge of determination and dread. He had come too far to turn back now, but the path ahead was more dangerous than he had ever anticipated. Baba Olufemi gave him a list of herbs and rituals, guiding him in preparing for a spiritual confrontation with Baba Abeji. That night, Ayo sat with the amulet around his neck, repeating the protective incantations Baba Olufemi had taught him. His hands trembled as he prepared, knowing he was about to face one of the most dangerous men in Lagos, a man who could not only destroy his life, but claim his very soul. Armed with the amulet and the knowledge of the rituals Baba Olufemi had taught him, Ayo began his search for Baba Abeji's lair, the place where he performed the dark rituals that fueled his powers. He knew that Baba Abeji had a hidden chamber somewhere in the city, a place where he collected the relics of the lives he had stolen and gathered his power. Days turned into nights as Ayo wandered through Lagos, following the leads from Baba Olufemi and the whispers of those who had suffered from Baba Abeji's touch. It wasn't until he encountered Enkay, who had once been one of Baba Abeji's victims, that he finally got the clue he needed. Enkay had been broken by Baba Abeji's curse, her spirit weakened, her business in shambles. But she remembered seeing him disappear into an old building in the heart of the city. She led Ayo to the building, a crumbling structure with vines growing over its walls, half hidden from the street. Ao entered cautiously, the air thick with an unnatural silence that weighed heavily on him. Inside, he found a room filled with relics, each item meticulously arranged: a child's shoe, a business card, a wedding ring. He realized that each item represented a destiny Baba Abeji had stolen, a life he had ruined. In the center of the room, Ao found a small, flickering fire, surrounded by symbols and markings he couldn't decipher. He took a deep breath, holding Baba Olufemi's amulet tightly as he stepped forward. The fire suddenly flared, and Ao could feel a strange pull, as if something was trying to draw him into the flames. It was then that he saw them, the shadows of souls swirling within the fire, trapped and struggling, their silent cries filling the room with an unbearable sorrow. These were the souls of Lagos, the people whose destinies Baba Abeji had stolen, their lives forever altered by his greed. Ao felt a surge of anger and determination. He had come this far, and he would not leave until he had freed these souls. He began chanting the ritual words Baba Olufemi had taught him, his voice steady and powerful as he called upon the spirits of protection and justice. The fire flickered and shifted, the shadows within it growing restless, as if responding to his words. But just as he was beginning to feel a glimmer of hope, a voice echoed through the chamber. "So, you finally found me, Ao?" Ao turned, his heart pounding as he saw Baba Abeji standing at the entrance, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of fury and amusement. The beggar had shed his disguise, standing tall and proud, his face twisted in a sneer. "You think you can save them?" Baba Abeji laughed, his voice dark and mocking. "These souls are mine. They are the price of power, and they have served me well." Ao swallowed, his fear replaced by a burning resolve. "You may have taken their destinies, Baba Abeji, but they are not yours to keep. I'll free them, even if it costs me everything." Baba Abeji's smile faded, his eyes narrowing. "Then prepare to lose, Ao. No one can challenge my power and survive." Ao tightened his grip on the amulet, the fire's heat pressing against him as he braced himself for the confrontation. He knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger, but he was ready. This was his chance to end Baba Abeji's dark reign, to free the souls of Lagos and reclaim the destinies the beggar had stolen. Ao felt his heartbeat thunder in his chest as he faced Baba Abeji in the dimly lit chamber, the air thick with tension and power. The small, flickering fire in the center of the room seemed to pulse with life, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls, giving the impression that the souls within were watching, waiting. Baba Abeji took a step forward, his eyes fixed on Ao with an intensity that made the young journalist's skin crawl. Gone was the frail beggar's mask. Now Baba Abeji stood as a formidable figure, radiating a dark, unholy power. His face, once youthful and vibrant after his rituals, had begun to show faint cracks as if the force he'd stolen was slipping away. But he still carried an aura of terrible authority. "I warned you, Ao." Baba Abeji's voice was low and venomous. "You've meddled in forces beyond your understanding. Now you'll face the consequences." Ao gripped Baba Olufemi's amulet, feeling its warmth against his palm as he took a steadying breath. "This ends tonight, Baba Abeji. You've taken enough. Those people's lives, their destinies, they aren't yours to keep." Baba Abeji sneered, stretching out his hands toward the flames. Instantly, the fire flared up, revealing more of the ghostly shadows swirling within, their faces contorted in silent screams. "They gave their destinies willingly, each coin a promise they made to me. Their lives are mine to use as I see fit." With a swift motion, Baba Abeji drew a series of symbols in the air, and a wave of dark energy shot toward Ao. Instinctively, Ao raised the amulet, chanting the protective incantations Baba Olufemi had taught him. The energy clashed with an invisible shield, the force pushing Ao back, but ultimately failing to reach him. Ao steadied himself, his voice growing stronger as he recited the words. "May the spirits of light and justice guard me. May the power of truth be my shield." Baba Abeji's expression twisted with rage. "You think a few words and charms can protect you? I've mastered powers older than this city, powers that bend fate itself." Ao continued chanting, his voice unwavering. He could feel Baba Olufemi's amulet radiating warmth, the protective energy surrounding him, and he noticed the shadows in the fire beginning to stir as if they could hear his words. He channeled his focus, calling upon the strength of those who had suffered, those who had been drained of their life force, knowing that their spirits could lend him power. "Release them, Baba Abeji," Ao said firmly. "These souls are bound to you by deception and greed. They deserve freedom." A deep, guttural laugh escaped Baba Abeji's lips. You think you can command me? I am the master of destinies." With a sharp gesture, Baba Abeji unleashed another wave of power, and this time, Elle felt the force like a hammer against his chest. He staggered back, his vision swimming, but he clutched the amulet tighter, refusing to yield. In the midst of the struggle, the spirits of the trapped souls were awakening, and with every word he chanted, they grew stronger, their energy pushing back against Baba Abeji's control. He changed his tone, calling out to the spirits directly. "Those who are bound, those whose lives were taken, rise with me. I speak for you. Join me in reclaiming what is yours." A ripple spread through the room, and the shadows in the fire began to rise, taking form, their faces becoming clearer as they drifted toward Baba Abeji, surrounding him. Baba Abeji's confidence faltered as he saw the spirits gather, their forms growing solid, their eyes fixed on him with accusation and anger. "No!" Baba Abeji cried, his voice laced with desperation. "You are bound to me. I am your master." But the spirits only pressed closer, a wave of ethereal energy that filled the room with a cold, unyielding presence. Their silent screams echoed through the chamber, and Elle could feel the oppressive weight of their suffering, years of stolen destinies unleashed in a single potent force. Elle seized the moment, stepping forward and raising the amulet high. "With the spirits of those wronged, I break your power, Baba Abeji. Your time is over." The amulet blazed with a fierce light, and the souls surged forward, engulfing Baba Abeji in a whirl of spectral energy. He screamed a terrible, gut-wrenching sound as the spirits tore at the essence he had stolen, reclaiming the fragments of their lives, their destinies. His form flickered, the youth and vigor he had stolen draining from him, leaving behind the old, frail man he had once been. Baba Abeji fell to his knees, his face aged and haggard, his body trembling as the last vestiges of his power slipped away. The fire in the room dimmed, and the shadows began to fade, each spirit finding peace as they drifted out of the chamber, their silent cries replaced with a profound, echoing stillness. As the last soul departed, the room fell into silence, and Baba Abeji lay motionless on the floor, his eyes wide with horror. The power he had once wielded was gone, his body reduced to the frail shell he had hidden behind for so long. Elle took a deep breath, relief flooding through him as he felt the curse lift, the oppressive energy dissipating. He stood over Baba Abeji, feeling a strange mixture of pity and triumph. "Your greed consumed you, Baba Abeji," Elle said quietly. "In the end, it left you with nothing." Baba Abeji's lips parted, a weak, defeated whisper escaping them. "I had it all. Power, destiny." His voice faded as his body went limp, his eyes staring into the void. Elle took one last look around the room, the scattered relics and broken symbols remnants of Baba Abeji's dark legacy. He had freed the souls, broken the curse, but the memory of what he had seen would linger. The morning light filtered through the buildings as Elle made his way back to Baba Olufemi's compound. He felt exhausted, every muscle aching, but he also felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced one of the darkest forces Lagos had known, and he had prevailed. When he arrived, Baba Olufemi greeted him with a solemn nod. "You've done well, Elle," the elder said, pride evident in his voice. "Baba Abeji's curse has been lifted. The souls he held captive are now free." Elle handed the amulet back to Baba Olufemi, grateful for the elder's guidance. "It's over, but I know I'll carry this story with me forever." The elder placed a hand on Elle's shoulder. "Sometimes the weight of truth is heavy, but it is a burden worth bearing. You saved many lives today, and your story will remind others of the dangers of greed and the power of destiny." Together, they performed a final cleansing ritual, ensuring that Baba Abeji's influence would not return. The relics were purified, the energy in the compound now calm and peaceful. With Baba Abeji's dark influence gone, life in Lagos began to heal. Mama Nkechi found her stall bustling with customers again, her fortunes restored. Tunde, the tech entrepreneur, began to rebuild his business with newfound confidence, and Aminat returned to her studies, her mind clear and focused once more. Elle published his story, sharing the tale of Baba Abeji's deception and the power he had wielded over people's lives. The article became a sensation, spreading through Lagos as a warning to those who might be tempted by shortcuts to wealth and power. The city remembered the tale of the beggar who took destinies, a story that would become a modern-day legend. But for Elle, the journey had been personal, a reminder of his own values and the power of truth. He felt stronger, wiser, his resolve to seek justice and protect the innocent unwavering. And so, As the people of Lagos whispered the tale of Baba Abeji, Ao continued his work, knowing that sometimes the greatest battles were fought not with swords or guns, but with courage, truth, and the determination to protect those who could not protect themselves.